I think I didn't do anything wrong, just spent a little time with someone who actually made me feel special. Now my husband has served me with divorce papers, and everyone acts like I'm the villain. But if he'd just listened to me for once, none of this would have happened. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The black dress hugged my curves perfectly. I'd spent 40 minutes getting ready, curling my auburn hair just right, applying makeup with the precision of a professional artist. At 32, I still turned heads, and tonight I was going to remind someone of that fact. "Marcus, how do I look?" I called out, doing a little spin in our bedroom doorway. My husband barely glanced up from his laptop, glasses perched on his nose, as he scrolled through spreadsheets. "You look nice, Sera. Where are you going again?" "Nice. That's all I got. Nice." "I told you, there's a faculty meeting tonight. We're discussing the new student registration system." The lie rolled off my tongue effortlessly. I'd been practicing it all day at the elementary school, where I worked as an administrative assistant. Marcus nodded absently. "Okay, don't be too late. Ella has that math test tomorrow." Our 8-year-old daughter was already in bed, thankfully. She'd been picking up on the tension between Marcus and me lately, asking innocent questions that cut too deep. "Why don't you and Daddy smile at each other anymore?" she'd asked last week. "Kids notice everything." I grabbed my purse, checking my phone one last time. Julian had texted, "Can't wait to see you. Il forno at 7. My heart fluttered. Julian Hart had been my college boyfriend before I'd met Marcus. He'd moved back to town 3 months ago, and we'd reconnected through Facebook. Just as friends, of course. At least, that's how it started. "I'm leaving," I announced, but Marcus was already lost in his work again. He'd been promoted to senior accountant last year, and ever since then, it was all numbers and deadlines. When was the last time he'd complimented my dress? When had he last planned a surprise for me? Julian appreciated me. Julian saw me. The drive to Il Forno took 20 minutes through our quiet suburban town. I'd chosen this restaurant specifically because it was on the other side of town, away from our usual haunts. The last thing I needed was to run into someone from Marcus's office or one of the other school moms. Julian was already waiting when I arrived, looking devastatingly handsome in a navy blazer. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and when he smiled, those dimples that had made me weak in college appeared. "Serafina," he said, standing to kiss my cheek, "you look absolutely stunning." "See? Was that so hard?" A real compliment from a man who noticed effort. "Thank you," I said, settling into the booth across from him. The restaurant was dimly lit, intimate, with soft jazz playing in the background. Everything Marcus never thought to plan for me. "So, how's the marriage?" Julian asked after we'd ordered wine. His directness had always been attractive. I sighed, twirling my wedding ring. "It's complicated. Marcus is a good father, but as a husband, he's checked out. All work, no romance. I feel invisible in my own home." Julian reached across the table, covering my hand with his. "You deserve better than that. You always did." The warmth of his touch sent electricity up my arm. When was the last time Marcus had held my hand? Really held it, not just a quick squeeze during Ella's school play or church service. "I keep thinking about what we had in college," I admitted. "The passion, the excitement. You made me feel like the most important person in the world." "You were," Julian said softly, "and you still are." We talked for 2 hours, sharing stories, laughing at inside jokes from our past. Julian told me about his job in marketing, his travels, his life as a successful single man. He listened when I complained about Marcus's neglect, nodding sympathetically when I explained how I'd tried everything to reconnect with my husband. "Maybe you need to focus on yourself for a while," Julian suggested. "Self-care isn't selfish, Sera. You can't pour from an empty cup." He was right. This wasn't about betraying Marcus. This was about taking care of my emotional needs. A woman has to look out for herself, especially when her husband won't. As we left the restaurant, Julian walked me to my car. Under the streetlight, he looked even more handsome. "I had an amazing time tonight," he said, stepping closer. "Me too." My voice was barely a whisper. He kissed me then, soft and sweet, and for a moment I felt like that carefree college girl again, desired, cherished, alive. "Same time next week?" he asked. I should have said no. A good wife would have said no, but I wasn't feeling like a good wife. I was feeling like a woman who deserved happiness. "Yes," I breathed. Driving home, I felt giddy, like I was floating. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Hope the meeting went well. I'm already in bed." Of course he was. "No, I missed you," or "How was your evening?" Just a perfunctory check-in from a husband going through the motions. I parked in our driveway, checking my reflection in the rearview mirror. My lipstick was gone, kissed away, but my cheeks were flushed with happiness. I looked alive in a way I hadn't in years. The house was dark except for the porch light Marcus had left on. Such a thoughtful gesture. If only he put that same consideration into our marriage. I slipped off my heels and crept upstairs, past Ella's room where she slept peacefully, surrounded by her stuffed animals. Marcus was indeed asleep, snoring softly on his side of the bed. In the dim light from the hallway, he looked older than his 36 years. When had those lines appeared around his eyes? When had his brown hair started thinning at the crown? I changed into my pajamas quietly, sliding into bed beside him. He stirred slightly but didn't wake. Even in sleep, we maintained our distance. Him on his side, me on mine, an ocean of cool sheets between us. As I lay there in the darkness, I thought about Julian's kiss, about the way he'd looked at me like I was precious. Was it so wrong to want to feel special? Was it so terrible to seek out someone who actually appreciated me? Marcus had had years to step up, to be the husband I needed. If he couldn't be bothered to notice when I dressed up for him, why should I feel guilty about finding someone who did? My phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. A text from Julian. "Sweet dreams, beautiful. Tonight was perfect." I smiled in the darkness, typing back, "It really was. Thank you for making me feel special." 3 dots appeared immediately. "You are special, Sera. Don't let anyone make you forget that." I fell asleep with my phone clutched to my chest, Julian's words echoing in my mind. For the first time in months, I felt truly happy. The next morning, Marcus was already gone when I woke up. He'd left coffee in the pot and a note on the kitchen counter. "Ella's lunch is packed. Have a good day. M." Even his notes were boring. No love, Marcus, or XOXO, just his initial, like I was a business associate. Ella bounced into the kitchen in her school uniform, backpack already strapped on. "Morning, Mummy. You look pretty today." At least someone in this family noticed when I made an effort. I'd chosen a fitted blue dress that brought out my eyes, paired with the pearl earrings Julian had always loved. "Thank you, sweetheart. Ready for that math test?" "Daddy helped me study last night while you were at your meeting," Ella said, grabbing her lunchbox. "He said you were working really hard at school." Guilt twisted in my stomach, but I pushed it away. I was working hard, just not at school. I was working on my happiness, my self-worth. That was important too. At Roosevelt Elementary, I settled into my desk in the main office, greeting my coworker Ava with a smile that felt more genuine than it had in weeks. "Someone's glowing this morning," Ava observed, looking up from her computer. At 34, she was my closest friend at work, the only one who knew about my marital problems. "Good meeting last night." I glanced around to make sure we were alone, then leaned closer. "It wasn't exactly a faculty meeting." Ava's eyes widened. "Sera, you didn't—" "I had dinner with Julian. You remember, my college boyfriend? It was completely innocent," I added quickly, though my fingers unconsciously touched my lips, remembering his kiss. "Honey, No dinner between a married woman and her ex is completely innocent, Ava said carefully. Especially not when you're having problems at home. It's not like that, I protested. Julian and I are just friends. He listens to me, Ava. He actually cares about my feelings. Unlike my husband, who can't be bothered to look up from his spreadsheets. Ava looked skeptical but didn't push. Just be careful, okay? I've seen this kind of thing blow up before. I spent the morning answering phones and processing enrollment forms, but my mind kept drifting to Julian. He'd texted me 3 times already. A good morning message, a photo of his coffee with "Thinking of You" attached, and a link to a song that reminded him of our college days. When was the last time Marcus had sent me a "Thinking of You" text? I couldn't remember. Around lunch, my phone rang. Marcus's name appeared on the screen. "Hey," I answered, trying to sound normal. "Hi. Listen, my mom wants to have us over for dinner Sunday. Can you make it? Martha Vale." My mother-in-law had never liked me, though she was polite enough to my face. She thought Marcus had married beneath him, that he could have done better than a small-town girl who worked at an elementary school. "I suppose," I said. "Will Gina be there?" Marcus's younger sister was even worse than his mother, sharp-tongued and judgmental, with a talent for passive-aggressive comments that cut deep. "Probably. Why?" "No reason. I'll make my famous apple pie." "Sounds good. Love you." The words were automatic, empty. "Love you too," I replied, but they felt like ash in my mouth. After hanging up, I stared at my phone. Julian's messages were still there, bright and warm and full of life. I scrolled up to read them again, smiling despite myself. My phone buzzed with another text from him. "Lunch? I'm downtown near your school." My heart raced. It was risky. Someone might see us. But the thought of spending my lunch hour with someone who actually wanted my company was too tempting to resist. "Meet me at Café Luna in 10 minutes, I typed back. I told Ava I was running errands and slipped out the back entrance of the school. Café Luna was a small coffee shop 3 blocks away, the kind of place that catered to college students and artists. Not exactly the crowd that would know me or Marcus. Julian was waiting at a corner table, 2 lattes already ordered. He stood when he saw me, pulling out my chair like a gentleman. Marcus hadn't done that in years. "You look incredible," Julian said, his eyes appreciating every detail of my outfit. "Blue is definitely your color." "You remember," I said, pleased. "I remember everything about you, Sera. The way you take your coffee, your favorite flowers, that little wrinkle you get between your eyebrows when you're concentrating." He was right, I did have that wrinkle. Marcus had never mentioned it, but Julian had noticed it even back in college. "Tell me about your morning," Julian said, leaning forward with genuine interest. So I did. I told him about Ella's math test, about the challenging parents I dealt with at school, about the new enrollment system that was giving everyone headaches. He listened to every word, asked follow-up questions, made me feel like my daily life mattered. "You're wasted in that job," he said. "You're so smart, so capable. You could do anything you wanted." Marcus thinks the school job is perfect for me. Steady hours, good benefits, summers off with Ella. What do you think? The question caught me off guard. When was the last time anyone had asked what I wanted? I used to dream of opening my own event planning business, I admitted. I'm good at organizing things, making everything beautiful and special. But Marcus says it's too risky, that we need the steady income. "Dreams don't have expiration dates," Julian said softly. "Maybe it's time to start putting yourself first." His hand found mine across the table, and I didn't pull away. His touch was warm, comforting, electric in a way that Marcus's hadn't been in years. "I should get back," I said reluctantly, checking my phone. We'd been talking for 45 minutes. "Same time tomorrow?" Julian asked hopefully. I knew I should say no. This was getting dangerous, crossing lines I shouldn't cross. But looking into his warm brown eyes, feeling desired and appreciated and alive, I couldn't bring myself to end it. "Yes," I whispered, He walked me back toward the school, stopping at the corner where we wouldn't be seen together. "Tonight's going to feel very long," he said, squeezing my hand. "For me, too." I floated through the rest of my workday, Julian's compliments echoing in my mind. Ava gave me curious looks but didn't ask questions. Smart woman. That evening, I made Marcus's favorite dinner, pot roast with mashed potatoes and green beans. I even lit candles and opened a bottle of wine, hoping maybe we could recapture some spark. "This is nice," Marcus said when he got home, but he seemed distracted. "How was your day?" "Good. I had lunch downtown, did some shopping." Not technically a lie. "Find anything interesting?" "Just window shopping, mostly." I served him a generous portion, sitting across from him at our dining room table. "How was your day?" He launched into a detailed explanation of a client's tax situation, something about quarterly reports and depreciation schedules. I nodded and made appropriate sounds, but my mind wandered to Julian's laugh, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. "So anyway, I'll probably have to work late tomorrow," Marcus was saying. "What?" I snapped back to attention. "I said I'll be working late tomorrow. The Henderson account needs to be finished by Friday." "Oh, okay." Another evening alone, another opportunity to see Julian. After dinner, Marcus retreated to his home office while I helped Ella with her homework. She chatted about her day, her friends, her upcoming school play. At least one of us was happy in this house. "Mommy, are you and Daddy fighting?" Ella asked suddenly, looking up from her spelling words. "Why would you think that, sweetheart?" "You don't laugh together anymore, and Daddy sleeps in the guest room sometimes." My heart clenched. I hadn't realized she'd noticed Marcus's recent habit of falling asleep at his desk and just staying there all night. "Sometimes grown-ups go through difficult times," I said carefully, "but we both love you very much. That will never change." Ella seemed satisfied with that answer, but I felt terrible. Was I being selfish? Was I thinking about my own happiness at the expense of my family? But then I thought about Marcus, probably hunched over his computer right now, completely oblivious to my new dress, my special dinner, my efforts to reconnect. When had he stopped seeing me as a woman and started seeing me as just another obligation to manage? That night, as Marcus worked late in his office, I lay in our empty bed and texted Julian. "Thinking about lunch today," I typed. "You made me feel so special." "You are special," came his immediate reply. "I can't stop thinking about you either." This is probably crazy. The best things usually are. Life's too short to settle for ordinary, Sera. He was right. I deserved extraordinary. I deserved passion and romance, and a man who noticed when I wore his favorite color. "Good night, beautiful," Julian texted. "Good night," I replied, already counting the hours until I could see him again. In his office down the hall, Marcus's keyboard clicked steadily, the sound of a man who had no idea his wife was slipping away, one secret lunch at a time. The next few weeks fell into a dangerous rhythm. Marcus would leave early for work. I'd get Ella ready for school, spend my day fielding his sister, Gina's passive-aggressive Facebook posts about family values, and meeting Julian for increasingly intimate lunches. Julian had become my drug of choice. Every text from him sent electricity through my veins. Every compliment filled a void I hadn't even realized was growing. When he looked at me, I felt beautiful, desired, important. "You're glowing again," Ava observed one Thursday morning, watching me check my phone for the third time in 10 minutes. "I don't know what you mean," I said, but I couldn't hide my smile. Julian had sent me a photo of red roses with the message, "These reminded me of your lips." "Sera, honey, I'm worried about you. This thing with your ex. It's getting serious, isn't it?" I glanced around the office, making sure we were alone. "We're just friends, Ava. He makes me feel good about myself. Is that so wrong?" "When you're married?" "Yeah, it kind of is." Her voice was gentle but firm. "What if Marcus finds out?" "Marcus barely knows I exist," I snapped. "Last night he worked until midnight. This morning he left before I was awake. When exactly would he notice? But even as I said it, doubt crept in. Marcus had been asking more questions lately. Where I'd been, who I'd talked to, why I was always on my phone. And Gina's social media posts were getting more pointed. Just yesterday, she'd shared an article about emotional affairs with the caption, "Some people need to read this." When I'd confronted her in the comments, she'd played innocent. "Just sharing interesting articles, Sera. Why so defensive?" My phone buzzed. "Julian, lunch today. I have something special planned." My heart raced. "What kind of special?" "Trust me. Meet me at the Riverside Hotel at noon." The Riverside Hotel. That was definitely crossing a line from lunches to something else. But the thought of Julian's hands on me, of feeling truly desired again, made my decision easy. "I'll be there," I typed. At 11:30, I told Ava I had a dentist appointment and left work. The Riverside Hotel was 20 minutes away, in the next town over. Julian had booked us a room. Not for anything inappropriate, he assured me when I arrived. Just somewhere private where we could talk without worrying about being seen. The room was beautiful, with a king-sized bed and a view of the river. Julian had ordered room service, champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries. "This is too much," I protested, but I was already reaching for a strawberry. "Nothing's too much for you," Julian said, pouring champagne. "You deserve to be spoiled, Sera. You deserve to feel special every single day." We sat on the small sofa by the window, talking and laughing like we had in college. Julian told me stories about his travels, his work, his dreams for the future. He asked about mine, really asked, and listened to the answers. "I keep thinking about what you said, about event planning," he said, refilling my glass. "You should do it. Start your own business." "Marcus would never—" "Forget Marcus for a minute. What do you want?" The question hung in the air between us. What did I want? I wanted to feel alive again. I wanted passion and excitement, and a man who saw me as more than just a wife and mother, an administrative assistant. I wanted Julian. "I want to feel like myself again," I whispered. He set down his champagne glass and moved closer. "You are yourself with me. The real Serafina, not the version you have to be for everyone else." When he kissed me this time, it wasn't gentle and sweet like outside the restaurant. This kiss was hungry, desperate, full of years of pent-up longing. I kissed him back with everything I had, pouring all my frustration and loneliness and need into that moment. "Sera," he breathed against my lips. "I know," I whispered. "I know this is crazy, but I can't stop." "Then don't stop. Life's too short for regrets." We spent 2 hours in that hotel room, talking and kissing, and remembering what it felt like to be young and free and passionately in love. I felt more alive than I had in years. "I should go," I finally said, checking my phone. It was almost 3 o'clock, and I had 6 missed calls from the school. "When can I see you again?" Julian asked, straightening his shirt. "I don't know, this is getting complicated." The best things always are. I drove back to work in a daze, my lips still tingling from Julian's kisses. Ava took one look at me when I walked into the office and shook her head. "Dentist appointment, huh?" "It was extensive," I said weakly. That evening, Marcus was actually home for dinner. He'd picked up Chinese takeout and was helping Ella with a science project when I walked in. "How was the dentist?" he asked absently, not looking up from Ella's volcano model. "Fine. Just a cleaning." But as I watched him patiently explaining how baking soda and vinegar created a chemical reaction, I felt a stab of guilt. Marcus wasn't a bad man. He was a good father, a steady provider, a decent human being. He just wasn't enough. Not anymore. "Mommy, come see," Ella called excitedly. "Daddy's helping me make it erupt." I joined them at the kitchen table, watching our daughter's face light up as the volcano foamed and bubbled. For a moment, we looked like a happy family. For a moment, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with Marcus in the first place. His kindness, his reliability, his devotion to our daughter. But then my phone buzzed with a text from Julian. "Can't stop thinking about this afternoon. You're incredible." And just like that, the spell was broken. Marcus was safe, predictable, boring. Julian was excitement and passion and everything I'd been missing. "I need to make some calls for work," I said, stepping away from the volcano project. In our bedroom, I texted Julian back. "I can't stop thinking about it either. When can we do it again? Tomorrow? Same place, same time?" I hesitated. This was spiraling out of control, but the memory of Julian's hands in my hair, his whispered words of desire, was too intoxicating to resist. "Yes," I typed. "I'll be there." Downstairs, I could hear Marcus and Ella laughing as their volcano erupted again. The sound should have made me happy, but instead it felt like a weight on my chest. They had each other, their science projects and math homework, an easy father-daughter bond. What did Marcus and I have? Polite conversations about schedules and bills. Perfunctory kisses goodbye. Separate sides of the bed and separate lives that barely intersected. I deserved more than that. I deserved passion and romance, and a man who made me feel like the most important person in his world. I deserved Julian. My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. Martha Vale's name appeared on the screen. "Hi, Martha," I answered, trying to sound normal. "Hello, Serafina. I'm calling about Sunday dinner. Should I expect you at 6? "Of course. I'm making my apple pie." "Wonderful. Gina will be there too with the kids. It'll be nice to have the whole family together." There was something in her tone, a sharpness that made me nervous. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine, dear. I just think it's important for families to stay close, don't you? To be honest with each other." Definitely something pointed in that comment. "Absolutely. Honesty is very important." "I'm glad we agree. I'll see you Sunday." After she hung up, I stared at my phone, anxiety creeping up my spine. Did Martha know something? Had someone seen me with Julian? But no, that was impossible. We'd been careful, discreet, and even if someone had spotted us having lunch, that wasn't necessarily suspicious. People had lunch with old friends all the time. I was being paranoid. Everything was fine. Downstairs, Marcus called up. "Sera, can you come help clean up this volcano mess?" "Coming," I called back, slipping my phone into my pocket. Just one more day, I told myself. One more afternoon with Julian, and then I'd figure out what to do about my marriage. One more taste of passion and excitement, and then I'd deal with reality. But as I headed downstairs to help my husband clean up our daughter's science project, I couldn't shake the feeling that my carefully constructed double life was about to come crashing down around me. Sunday dinner at Martha Vale's house was always an ordeal, but this time felt different. The moment Marcus and I walked through the front door with Ella and my famous apple pie, I could feel the tension crackling in the air like electricity before a storm. Martha greeted us with her usual tight smile, but her eyes lingered on me longer than normal. Gina was already there with her 2 kids, and she barely looked up from her phone when we arrived. "Uncle Marcus." Gina's 6-year-old son, Tommy, launched himself at Marcus, who caught him in a bear hug. At least someone in this family was genuinely happy to see us. "Serafina, you look lovely," Martha said, but her tone suggested the opposite. "New dress?" It was new, actually. A burgundy wrap dress I'd bought specifically because Julian had mentioned he loved that color. But Martha didn't need to know that. "Thank you," I replied, setting my pie on the kitchen counter. "Can I help with anything?" "Everything's under control. Why don't you go sit with the family?" In the living room, Marcus was already deep in conversation with his father about tax law changes. Gina was still glued to her phone, typing furiously. Her daughter Emma was coloring quietly in the corner. "Busy day on social media?" I asked Gina, trying to keep my voice light. She looked up with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just sharing some interesting articles. You know how it is. Information is power." There was definitely something pointed in that comment. I settled onto the sofa next to Ella, who was showing her grandfather her latest art project. Dinner was roast beef with all the traditional sides, the kind of meal Martha had been making for 30 years. The conversation flowed around safe topics: Ella's school play, Marcus's promotion prospects, the weather, but I could feel undercurrents of tension, meaningful glances exchanged when they thought I wasn't looking. "So, Serafina," Martha said as we were finishing dessert, "how are things at the school? Keeping busy?" "Very busy. Lots of meetings lately, new enrollment procedures to learn." "Meetings," Gina repeated, finally looking up from her phone. "That must be exhausting. All those evening meetings." My blood ran cold. Not that many evening meetings. "Oh, I thought Marcus mentioned you'd been working late quite a bit. Faculty meetings and such." I glanced at Marcus, but he was helping Ella with her pie and didn't seem to be paying attention to our conversation. "Just a few," I said carefully. "Part of the job." "Of course," Martha said smoothly. "It's so important to be dedicated to your work. Though I always think family should come first, don't you?" "Absolutely. Family is everything." "I'm glad we agree." Martha's smile was razor-sharp. "More coffee, anyone?" After dinner, while the men watched football and the kids played in the backyard, I found myself alone in the kitchen with Martha and Gina. They were loading the dishwasher with military precision, moving around each other in a choreographed dance of passive aggression. "Serafina," Martha said without looking at me, "you know I've always thought of you as a daughter." Here it comes, I thought, which is why I feel I can speak frankly with you. "Of course." She turned to face me, her expression serious. "Marriage is work. It requires commitment, sacrifice, putting your family's needs above your own desires." "I know that." "Do you?" Gina chimed in. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're putting your own needs first these days." My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't you?" Martha stepped closer. "My son is a good man, Serafina. He works hard, he provides for his family, he's devoted to that little girl. He deserves better than a wife who's distracted." "I'm not distracted, I'm dedicated to my family." "Are you?" Gina held up her phone. "Because this looks pretty distracted to me." On her screen was a photo, grainy, clearly taken from a distance, but unmistakably me and Julian outside Il Forno. We were standing close together, his hand on my arm, both of us smiling. The world tilted sideways. "Where did you get that?" "Does it matter? The question is, what are you going to do about it?" I stared at the photo, my mind racing. How long had they known? What else did they have? "It's not what it looks like," I said weakly. Martha laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Serafina, I may be 60 years old, but I'm not stupid. That's not the look of innocent friendship. He's an old friend from college. We were just catching up. At a romantic restaurant, dressed up like you're going to prom." Gina swiped to another photo, this one of Julian kissing my cheek as we said goodbye. "Just catching up?" Panic clawed at my throat. "You don't understand. Marcus and I, things have been difficult. I just needed someone to talk to." "So you chose your ex-boyfriend?" Martha's voice was ice cold. "Instead of working on your marriage, instead of talking to your husband, you decided to have an affair." "It's not an affair. We're just friends." "Friends don't kiss like that," Gina said flatly. "Friends don't sneak around and lie about faculty meetings." I felt trapped, cornered like a wild animal. "What do you want from me?" "We want you to end it," Martha said, "immediately. Cut all contact with this man, focus on your marriage, and pray that Marcus never has to see these photos." "And if I don't?" The two women exchanged a look that chilled me to the bone. "Then we'll make sure he does," Gina said simply. "Along with everyone else in town, your co-workers, your daughter's teachers, your neighbors. How do you think that will go over?" "You wouldn't. Try us." I stared at them, these two women who had never liked me, never thought I was good enough for their precious Marcus. They had me cornered, and they knew it. "I need time to think," I said. "You have until tomorrow," Martha said. "End it, or we will." The drive home was silent except for Ella chattering about her cousins. Marcus seemed lost in thought, probably replaying football statistics or planning his week at work. He had no idea that his mother and sister had just delivered an ultimatum that could destroy our marriage. But as I sat in the passenger seat, watching familiar neighborhoods blur past, I felt something unexpected. Anger. Who were they to judge me? Who were they to dictate how I should live my life? Martha had been married to the same boring man for 40 years, settling for a life of routine and predictability. Gina had married her high school sweetheart and never experienced anything beyond their small town. What did they know about passion, about feeling alive, about deserving more than ordinary? I thought about Julian's kiss, about the way he made me feel special and desired. I thought about the hotel room, the champagne, the promise of something extraordinary. Why should I give that up? Why should I settle for Marcus's distracted pecks on the cheek and perfunctory, "love you too," when I could have Julian's passionate kisses and whispered words of desire? That night, after Ella was in bed and Marcus had retreated to his office, I sat in our bedroom and stared at my phone. I could text Julian, tell him what happened, ask him to be more careful. We could find new places to meet, new ways to be together without his family's interference. Or I could end it, cut all contact, focus on my marriage, try to recapture whatever Marcus and I had once had. My phone buzzed. "Julian, thinking about you tonight. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." My heart raced. Tomorrow, our usual lunch date. Martha and Gina expected me to cancel, to choose my boring, predictable marriage over excitement and passion. But they weren't living my life. They weren't trapped in a loveless marriage with a man who saw them as just another item on his to-do list. I deserved happiness. I deserved to feel alive. "Can't wait to see you too," I typed back. "Same time, same place." I hit send before I could change my mind. Martha and Gina could threaten all they wanted. I wasn't going to let them control my life. I was going to choose happiness, even if it destroyed everything else. The next morning, Marcus left for work without his usual perfunctory kiss goodbye. He'd been quiet since dinner at his mother's house, lost in thought in a way that made me nervous, but I pushed the worry aside. I had more pressing concerns. At school, Ava took one look at my face and pulled me into the supply closet. "Okay, spill. You look like you've seen a ghost." I told her everything. The photos, Martha and Gina's ultimatum, my decision to keep seeing Julian anyway. Ava listened with growing alarm. "Sera, honey, you need to end this. Now, before it gets worse." "It's not going to get worse. We'll just be more careful." "You're not listening to me. This isn't about being careful anymore. This is about your marriage, your family, your reputation. Is this guy really worth losing everything?" I thought about Julian's kiss, about the way he made me feel like the most important person in the world. Maybe he is. Ava stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "I can't be part of this anymore, Sera. I can't keep covering for you, making excuses. You're my friend, but I won't help you destroy your life." Her words stung, but I lifted my chin defiantly. "Fine, I don't need your help." "You need someone's help. You need therapy or counseling or something. This isn't you, Sera. This isn't the woman I know." Maybe the woman you know was settling for less than she deserved. I walked out of the supply closet, leaving Ava staring after me with disappointment written all over her face. But I didn't care. Everyone wanted to judge me, to tell me what I should do with my life. No one seemed to care about what I wanted, what I needed, except Julian. At noon, I met him at our usual cafe, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and fear. He looked gorgeous as always, but I could see concern in his eyes. "You seem tense," he observed, reaching for my hand across the table. I told him about the photos, about Martha and Gina's threats. Julian listened intently, his jaw tightening with anger. "They can't do that," he said. "They can't blackmail you into ending our friendship." "It's more than friendship now," I said quietly. "We both know that." Julian was quiet for a long moment. Sera, maybe they're right. Maybe we should cool things down for a while. My heart plummeted. What? I don't want to be the reason your marriage falls apart. I don't want to hurt your daughter. My marriage was falling apart long before you came back to town, I said desperately, and Ella will be fine. Kids are resilient. Are you sure about that? Are you sure you're ready to blow up your whole life for this? He gestured between us. I thought you cared about me. I do care about you. That's why I'm saying this. Maybe you should try to work things out with Marcus. Go to counseling, figure out what went wrong. I stared at him in disbelief. After everything, the lunches, the hotel room, the passionate kisses, he was abandoning me too. So that's it? You're just going to walk away? I'm not walking away. I'm trying to do the right thing. The right thing for who? For Marcus? For his family? What about what's right for me? Julian sighed. Sera, you're married. You have a child. That has to mean something. It means I'm trapped, I said bitterly. It means everyone expects me to be grateful for a man who barely knows I exist, who treats me like a roommate instead of a wife. Maybe if you talk to him... I've tried talking to him. He doesn't listen. He doesn't see me. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't care. You're the only one who sees me, Julian. You're the only one who makes me feel alive. Julian looked torn, conflicted. This is complicated. Life is complicated, but what we have is real. Don't let them take that away from us. He was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. Finally, he reached across the table and wiped away my tears. You're right, he said softly. What we have is real, and I'm not going to let anyone take it away from us. Relief flooded through me. Really? Really. But we have to be smarter about this, more careful. Maybe it's time to stop sneaking around and be honest about what we want. What do you mean? Julian took a deep breath. Leave him, Sera. Leave Marcus. Get a divorce, and we can be together properly. No more hiding. No more lies. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. Leave Marcus. End my marriage. Start over with Julian. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. What about Ella? We'll figure it out. Plenty of kids have divorced parents. She'll adjust. What about money? I don't make enough to support myself and Ella on my own. I make good money. We could move in together, start fresh somewhere new. You could start that event planning business you've always dreamed about. He made it sound so simple, so appealing. A new life with a man who loved and appreciated me. Freedom from Martha's disapproval and Gina's passive aggression. Freedom from a marriage that had died years ago. I need time to think, I said. Of course, but don't take too long. Life's too short to waste on people who don't appreciate what they have. That evening, I sat in my car outside our house for 20 minutes, trying to work up the courage to go inside. Through the living room window, I could see Marcus helping Ella with homework, both of them bent over her math book. They looked peaceful together, content. Father and daughter, working through long division problems with infinite patience. When was the last time Marcus had looked at me with that same focused attention? I finally went inside, pasting on a smile for Ella's benefit. How was school today, sweetheart? Good. I got an A on my science test. Daddy's helping me with my math now. That's wonderful. I ruffled her hair, breathing in her little girl scent of strawberry shampoo and playground dust. Marcus looked up briefly. How was your day? Fine, just the usual. He nodded and returned his attention to Ella's homework. Dismissed, just like that. No follow-up questions, no real interest in my life or my feelings. Julian would have asked details. Julian would have cared about my answer. That night, after Ella was in bed, I found Marcus in his office as usual, surrounded by tax forms and calculator tapes. Marcus, can we talk? He looked up, surprised. Sure, what's up? I perched on the edge of his desk, trying to find the words. How do you tell your husband that you're falling in love with someone else? How do you explain that your marriage has become a prison? I've been thinking about us lately. About our marriage. Marcus set down his pen, giving me his full attention for the first time in months. Okay. Are you happy, Marcus? Really happy? He seemed taken aback by the question. Yes, I think so. I mean, things are good. We have Ella, the house, stable jobs. What more do we need? What about passion? Romance? Feeling excited to see each other at the end of the day? Marcus looked confused. We've been married 9 years, Sera. That stuff fades. It's normal. What if I don't want normal? What if I want more? More what? More money? We could look into refinancing the house, maybe take a vacation this summer. He didn't get it. He didn't understand that I wasn't talking about money or vacations. I was talking about feeling alive, feeling desired, feeling like I mattered. Never mind, I said, sliding off his desk. Forget I said anything. Sera, wait. Marcus stood up, reaching for my hand. If something's bothering you, we can work on it. Maybe we could go to counseling or something. Too little, too late. It's fine, Marcus, really. But it wasn't fine. As I lay in bed that night, listening to Marcus's steady breathing beside me, I knew what I had to do. Julian was right. Life was too short to waste on people who didn't appreciate what they had. I was going to choose happiness, even if it meant destroying everything else in the process.